You are now listening to the Going North podcast with your host, author and speaker, Dom Brightman. And every Monday and Thursday, you're going to hear the voice of a different author share their stories, expertise, and their struggles that they had to overcome in life to leave you inspired to get more out of your life. Be sure to not only listen to this episode, but share with others, connect with the authors, and always advance others to advance yourself. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we're back at you again with yet another author, but not just any author. This wonderful author right here knows something that is true about all of us, and is that we all came to this planet to do something amazing. That's right. You right now, you listening to this chocolate voice, that's right, you hear me right there, you included, you are here to do something amazing. And this wonderful author right here is an internationally known self-care expert and published author of the self-improvement book, 30 Days to Me. Not to a new me, just 30 Days to Me. And a children's book, The Secret to Beating the Dragon. Not chasing the dragon, but beating the dragon. And her mastery of understanding behavior allows her to support wonderful folks with proven practices to change the way you see your life. And you're probably wondering who I got today. It is the one, the only, Miss L.A.R., Miss Lynn A. Reilly. How are you today, ma'am?
Oh, I love that introduction. That was fantastic. Thank you. I'm doing great.
Oh, yeah, she's doing so great. You got to spell it with 3 R's, baby. That's right.
That's right.
Oh, yes, ma'am, indeed. Yes, ma'am, indeed. Been waiting for this one for a bit. Brick by brick and stone by stone, stone by stone. So mind telling us a bit about yourself and fill in some cavities I may have missed during the introduction?
I think you did a great job there, and I really appreciate the enthusiasm around it. But, yeah, I'm a licensed professional counselor. I run a private practice. I'm also a writer, and I do have a self-development book, 30 Days to Me, as well as my children's book, The Secret to Beating the Dragon. And I have a real focus on helping people shift perspective and with the goal of helping people learn how to live a serendipitous life, which really just means to trust the process of life more, as well as increasing your awareness of seeing how the good things that happen every day that are happening for you, how life is happening for you.
That is true. Yeah, because life happens for you in more ways than one. Hopefully it's good stuff.
Well, and that's kind of where the perspective comes from. When you're looking at things of the negative consistently, then you're going to focus and feel more of the negatives. But when you start to become more aware of the good things and build that awareness, it doesn't feel so heavy. And even the stuff that's difficult, there's always going to be stuff that's challenging. You can learn to move through it and then also shift that perspective when you start to look and see all the good things that are coming from that as well.
Oh, yeah. That's right. So if you focus on ice cream all day, you're going to go and get some ice cream eventually, right?
Right.
Well, with all of your wonderful work in getting to the master's degree level, I'm pretty sure to do a bunch of writing. Is that what led you to publishing both an adult self-help book as well as a children's book?
Yeah, funny, as much as schooling as I've had, I don't recall enjoying the writing back then, but definitely the more that I learn about life, my personal experience and professional experience has taught me more than anything back for all those years of undergraduate school and graduate school. So writing has become way more enjoyable and meaningful at this point.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Make some meaning, make some meaning. Make some meaning. So what's the idea behind the title 30 Days to Me? Because it's like with with titles like that, it's like usually expect a new in between the to and the me, but it's just me. Am I going deeper into that?
Yeah, when that book came to be, I was a big mess of myself, and I was actually making some really great decisions for myself, and I wasn't in a bad place in my life, but I was still feeling lost and disconnected. And I was just always talk about this day that I was sitting on my front porch just sobbing, trying to figure out why I still felt so crummy and felt so off and why I couldn't seem to shake it. And I heard my intuitive voice say to me, because you're missing you and you're disconnected from you. Of course, I didn't know what that meant, and so I was looking for more information. And what the intuitive voice said to me at that point was to take the next 30 days and focus on myself. I had always been in the habit of giving to other people, and it was time for me to focus on myself. And so that's actually where that came from. And it started as this process of all I wanted to do was do fun things each day that I like to do for 30 days. That's how it started. But what that turned into was, as I was doing things that brought me joy, that I liked, it helped to elevate my mood. It helped to shift my energy. And then I would hear my intuitive voice even more, and it would give me this instruction to, okay, well, today you're going to focus on this. And it turned into a journaling question. And then another day it turned into an activity. And so for 30 days, not only was I doing things that I enjoyed and elevating my mood and shifting my perspective, I was also clearing the clutter to hear my intuitive voice, to dig even more into myself and learn more about myself and appreciate myself. By the end of those 30 days, I was high as a kite, super, super happy, and so in love with myself and my life in a way that I hadn't been before.
Woohoo! Woohoo indeed. Woohoo indeed. That is amazing indeed. And we're talking the natural high here, right?
Oh yeah.
I was messing with you.
Pure joy-filled high, all internal. Mm-hmm.
That's right. We're just walking the goes at third. Let me stop.
Yeah. And it's a good question because we're all shooting for the high, right? We're looking for it all the time, searching for it. And it really, that internal high is the most sustainable one you can have. It really is.
Yeah, that is very true, and you're right about that, because it's like when you do something that brings you joy and your joy gets to come out in different ways, it's a lot more sustainable, and it's renewable too, from within as opposed from an outside source.
Mm-hmm. For sure, because that stuff kind of comes and goes. Just like somebody gives you a compliment and you can feel really great in that moment, you'll feel awesome. But, 20 minutes later, if you're not really feeling great about yourself, that's going to be long gone, and you're going to be searching for it outside of you again.
Yeah, a lot could happen in 20 minutes.
That's true. And if you've got like that, the typical internal habit of self-deprecation and woe is me, then yeah, in 20 minutes you could turn that compliment into nothing.
Yeah, it's like, oh, wait, does she really think my hair was cute? Oh my gosh, my hair's a mess. No! I gotta put it all out, no!
Maybe she thought my hair was cute, but did she see my shirt? I had a stain on it. Oh my God, did you see the stain and she didn't even tell me? Like that kind of stuff.
But yeah, it's true, and that's funny. That was something I struggled with for a long time, is just being able to accept compliments. It's like at one point it's like, hey, didn't even know what to say, didn't know how to respond to it, and actually go with it. I'm guessing that's also part of the self-care aspect, is making sure you keep your mind right with positive self-talk, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's a practice in itself, because we're not really trained to do that. From childhood on, we're always being pointed out to us what's not good or what isn't working for us as opposed to what is. That's just generally when you watch the news for 10 minutes and you can go put yourself right into a depression focusing on all the negative stuff. So besides the outside world telling us everything's wrong, we started off with those voices of all the adults in our lives telling us of all the things to be afraid of or look out for, or don't do this, you have to do this, and all of those expectations. It creates this inner dialogue that at some point needs to be addressed and unraveled in order to not feel crummy and like everything's disastrous all the time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because that is one thing you don't want to do is just feel like everything around you is disaster. Because I'm pretty sure not everything is if you really, really look for it.
No, and that's a lot of the work that I do is taking about some in my private practice. So I'm listening to clients one-on-one, and I'm listening to their frustrations and the things that that they feel like are happening to them. And I hear all the negatives, but my role is to search out or listen for the positive. Okay, we see how this is not working, but how is this moving them into the direction of things that are working? And so I'm helping them to bring to light to see, well, yeah, this didn't work, but look what it did. Look how it shifted your perspective. Look at the turn that you made. Look at the way you voiced your opinion and strengthened yourself and that kind of stuff. And so with the book that I wrote, it was very similarly, it's about getting to know yourself more and understanding your habits and the places that you want to shift and the things that you want to keep, but in a way that doesn't feel like complete torture because, you know, the goal is to also be doing things that you enjoy. So it really was meant to be therapy in a book that doesn't feel awful.
Oh, yeah. And then maybe feel like a unicorn afterwards, right?
Yes. Always feel like a unicorn afterwards. One of a kind happiness. But also respecting the fact that you're not always going to feel like a unicorn and you're not always going to feel fantastic, and to push yourself to feel a way that you don't isn't natural and helpful either. So part of the clearing the clutter process is also to feel your feelings. When you're upset, allow yourself to feel upset. When you're sad, be sad. If you're angry, by all means, feel your anger. Somehow get it out, whether you're writing it down or screaming in the car by yourself or punching a pillow. It's really important to feel those emotions so they can move through you and be released. And when you do that, it's the quickest way to feel better again, for sure. But it also allows you to hear your intuitive voice more when you're getting rid of the stuff that is heavy in your system.
That's right. Got to get it all out. Just let it all out and let it go.
Yeah, because you know that the practice of I'm constantly looking for the positive, but it's not helpful to avoid all the negatives either because they're part of us. It's part of living. It's part of being whole. So we have to allow room for that as well. So it's like, you know, when you hear, oh, you only think positively, you got to think positively. Well, yes, it's important to think positively because it feels better, but not to be completely fake all the time where it feels like you're just walking around wearing a mask, hiding all of your emotions and shoving them down. That's not healthy.
Yeah, you're right, and that's one of the drawbacks to positive thinking. Heck, I was reading a book the other day called Leading on Empty by Wayne Cordeiro. He was talking about how he was so positive for so many years as a pastor that it helped him to mask some of the health issues that was going on, and one day just all compounded on him because he never confronted them. So you're right. There's some negative you got to confront.
Absolutely. It is part of the process of living. And it's important. It's honoring who you are and your experiences. The goal is just to not live there. So we want to feel our feelings. We want to feel the uncomfortable feelings as they come up because they're actually teaching us something as well. And then we want to let them go and move on.
That's right. That's when you drop the mic right there. Just let it go, move on. Literally.
Right.
Well, speaking of negative moments becoming positive moments, checked out a bit of your past, and it looks like you was raised to be a tough girl because you lost your mom at a young age, and then it was just you, your brother, and your dad. So how are you able to turn that around into becoming the wonderful woman that you are today?
Well, it started off with I knew early on I wanted to use my experiences for good. I knew that I had a feeling in me that said, this is real, this really sucks. But I want to use this experience in a way that will help me and help other people. I always knew that that was going to be part of my life. But I started off that way, but then it was really uncomfortable. So then I had to repress it for a while. I chose to repress it for a while. And I did that. A lot of my adolescence was I was drinking, I was getting in trouble, doing not like heavy trouble, but like always avoiding when uncomfortable feelings started to come up. I wanted to push them down and do anything but deal with them. So I had to go through that process as well. That was part of my process, because when I stopped that, when my life was getting to a point where I was so uncomfortable, that was when I was ready to change and actually feel my feelings, look at myself for who I was, and basically deal with my shit. And once that happened, everything started to change for me. One, I had to feel my feelings. That was really uncomfortable. So I also learned how to support myself in that process, because that was the toughest part. To not avoid and to not mask means you have to feel and try not to continue to cover it up, to let it come up to surface, to be released and be done with, in a sense. So the way that I chose to turn that as a negative, is take my own experiences and learn from them. I'm still doing that, and learn from them so I can help support other people. So look, like my mom took her life, and so that was really challenging because I wanted to be able to support her in a way that she couldn't support herself, but I couldn't. And it wasn't really my role, but I wanted it to be. So I took those experiences and learned from the discomfort to be able to find ways to either inspire or teach other people to do those things that I couldn't show her then, but I can help other people with now.
Yay, the land of the Cape, saving the world, baby, saving the world.
No big deal. Yeah, I have a lot of passion, which is great because it keeps me very energized and motivated to keep going on really tough days, when things is heavy, being around a lot of people's issues and I'm very empathic, which is a great skill because it helps me to feel other people's feelings and what they're experiencing, but then I have to really make sure that I release it and let it go and not let it impact my life in a way that brings me down. That doesn't help that much. So it's really important for me to practice what I preach in terms of supporting myself and taking care of myself and knowing what I need, and always prioritizing that I am purposefully bringing and allowing joy to be in my life, because I know the true benefits that brings.
That's right indeed, because you could wake up one day and you gain 50 pounds out of nowhere, like, oh shit, what the heck happened? I thought I was taking care of myself.
We call that repression.
Oh, man. You know what, that's going to be I'm going to start using it now. It's like, I gained all this weight. Yeah, that's repression right there. What the heck are you talking about? Just check out Lynn Reilly's website and head over to Going North Podcast. You'll figure it all out. What's a podcast?
Yeah, we have to make light of the stuff. Because we're also real good at making things super, super heavy, and it doesn't have to be so difficult all the time. We're great at making it super difficult all the time, but man, you gotta laugh and at least bring to light some of the stuff that's stuck, because otherwise it's just swimming in mud all the time.
Yeah, that's true indeed, because, once you're in the mud and you walk out as a mud monster, you won't be as fast.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I go visual.
Having a very serious phone session with a client, and I happened to had to take, it was an emergency phone session, so I was taking it in my car, and I was actually just sitting in my driveway, and it was a very heavy conversation about there were really some deep experiences that they were having, like really, really heavy sadness. And I wanted to get out of my car, and I opened the car, and there was a porcupine outside of my car. So I'm like,
wow.
oh my God, I can't get out of the car. This is really bizarre. What am I going to do? And so I had to tell my client, I'm like, listen, I know that this is really heavy and what you're experiencing is really difficult, but I'm trapped in my car right now because there's a porcupine outside my car. And I think maybe that gives us, we need to look into the perspective of maybe what you're experiencing is not as hard as it is, because if you were stuck in a car right now with a porcupine, what would you do? And we laughed about it for a while because we do take things so seriously and they feel so heavy, but it's really important to lighten them up and shake them up because it doesn't always have to be so intense all the time.
Yeah, that's true indeed. Did you get out the car and hug the porcupine?
I did not. I waited it out for a while until I no longer saw the porcupine, and then I went inside and chalked it up for another interesting, bizarre, serendipitous experience.
Yeah.
It did shift the conversation, and it did lighten it up, and we were able to recognize oh wait, we might be looking at this too much. We might be giving it too much weight where it doesn't need to be.
So the porcupine was sent by God.
Exactly. Save the day.
That's right. Who needs capes when you have a whole bunch of needles on your back, right?
Exactly. This is real fear. This is real fear, not the kind that we make up in our head. This thing could totally attack me right now.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if it just becomes fully rabid. It's like, oh gosh, no. Well, for those who are just now hearing about self-care, where do you think is the best place for them to start?
Very simply, I think that, you had talked about the 30 days, and I want to actually just go back to that because I'm re-engaging with my book. It's a repeat process, really, because even if you connect with yourself once, it doesn't mean life happens. You're going to feel disconnected again.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I'm in the middle of the book. I think I started it again 3 months ago. So, you don't have to do it in 30 days. There's no pressure on that. But those short amounts of time are really helpful if you want to shift something quickly. And so my simplest recommendation is make a list of things that you like to do, things that bring you joy, or things that you want to do or planning to do, but you just don't make time for it. Either it's planning a vacation or reading or taking a bath or making a date with a friend, something simple, and commit to it for a week or 5 days or something along those lines, and start creating the habit of prioritizing your needs, whether for 5 minutes or 5 hours or whatever, but integrating that into your life so you are making sure that you are doing something for you each day. And what that does is it shifts brain chemistry, quite frankly. When we're thinking positive thoughts or doing things that we like, we create a positive thought in our head, and that has a physiological reaction in our body. We have more energy. We feel more alive. We feel more up. And so just doing those simple things shifts your mood, shifts your chemistry, and changes your biology in a way that's actually very healing.
Oh, yeah. That's right. The most powerful computer on the planet known as your mind and your brain. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Forget the 6-pack of beer because the brain has an 8-pack. It's got all the abs.
That's so true. It's powerful. And so the more that we feed it with things that work well for it, the more that that strengthens that muscle and allows it to grow. Which is why one of the practices that I also encourage is to write down one good thing that happens each day. So when we're worrying and we're thinking, I don't know what's going to happen next, we have an opportunity to look at our past as proof to see that the things that you worried about in the past generally don't come to be. And when they do, usually you learn something from it, you gain something, some sort of strength or ability to recognize you can do hard things. So something good always comes from the hard stuff, but also most of the hard stuff doesn't ever happen. We just think it might, so we try to protect ourselves. So when you create a habit of writing down something good that happens each day, you're building a book of proof, a proof that no matter what, you're going to be given something that elevates your mood, or even if it's just that compliment for the day, something that feels good. And as you do that, create that book of proof, you're also creating awareness to be looking for the good and allowing yourself to feel the good, to build that part of your mind and your spirit.
I love that, a book of proof. Oh, that is great.
Mm-hmm. And it's simple. We're very good at overcomplicating everything.
Yeah, it's true. Well, speaking of books of proof, I'm pretty sure there have been some books that have inspired you to write yours, or ones that you've really enjoyed. Mind sharing a title or two that you've liked?
Yes. The book that really helped me commit to this life, I would say, was Man's Search for Meaning, and by Viktor Frankl. And he wrote of he was a psychiatrist who was a prisoner in the Holocaust. And he wrote of his account in the Holocaust and talked about basically how he survived and the perspective shift of finding meaning in the things that were happening. And when I read that book, I was in college, and I was actually taking my psychology courses and thinking I had made a major mistake studying psychology, because like my junior year, I thought, this is ridiculous. They're taking really simple things and making them very complicated and using big words that no one's ever going to know. And I just was turned off by it. And I read that book going into my senior year of college, and I was so happy that someone got it. It was, okay, yes, it's important to know your patterns and looking at your childhood and all that stuff, but if we spend all of our time blaming it, it doesn't really do anything for the now besides sort of make you a victim and give purpose for your pain, right? But what are you going to do with it? And so I love the perspective shift of finding meaning in your experiences and then doing something with it. So that, to me, felt validating, and it was really the sign that I needed to keep going and continue on that path of studying psychology and counseling and going down that road. And what's interesting is I actually reread the book this year because I had recommended it to a client so I would read it with him. And I hadn't read it since then in its entirety. And at this point of my life, having a different perspective, clearly, I didn't recognize that he had written a book that described, that was really that his theory of finding the meaning and purpose, and that's how we can elevate ourselves and shift out of depression and anxiety. He'd written that prior to his experience of being a prisoner in the Holocaust. And then after he was freed, he published a different version of it, but that was his life's work. And what really struck me was when he had that experience of really living out his theory, it made it even more valid. It made it even more real. It made he was now truly an expert because he had experienced it in every way and lived it. So we look at that like, oh my gosh, how could you possibly think that was a positive being a Holocaust survivor? But he had already developed a theory that literally saved his life, and then was able to use it as credibility to share with others. So in some bizarre way, it was almost as if it was designed to occur that way.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I might have to reread that book too, because that book is really, really good, and the story is just too powerful.
Very powerful, very powerful, very heavy, you know, and I can remember reading through it again and just crying, thinking, how could anyone experience that? But those were their experiences to have. And
Yes,
for us to learn from them, you know, what a gift for us to learn from other people's experiences and pain.
that's right. Gotta love the business of immortality. It's when you write your stories and you publish them, and then it becomes bestsellers, and then folks get to talk about your experiences when you're dead.
Right. But I when I was doing my children's book, I was thinking, wow, well, if there's nothing I ever do in my lifetime, to have this book, even if 5 people have a copy of this beautiful book, I will feel like I have left my mark on the world. And that's really true. Because I think children's books are beautiful and the illustrations of the book are quite lovely as well, but the story behind it, you know, is touching. And so it's true. We all want to feel like we are doing something in life that feels good to us, but also maybe possibly touches somebody else.
That's right, because you never know how many folks you can touch with a book.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
Or
right.
a podcast.
I love the way you think.
Thank you.
Woo! Well, if you were to go into the future, 2 years into the future, and you were 25 in the current year, well, actually, current year of 2019, what advice would you give to yourself? And you get to keep all your knowledge and wisdom.
The advice that I would give to myself is you're always going to end up where you need to be. And it's always going to be okay. And all of those painful experiences and those worries that you have meaning to them. It's important to listen to them, but it's really important to not live there.
That's right. When you're in the valley, don't pull out a futon. You have to keep on going.
Mm-hmm. It's true, because really, and that is so much of what I talk about. And I feel fortunate sometimes that I have so many experiences that have been very, very heavy and very scary, but I also know that they were purposeful because they taught me the value of trusting the process, trusting in myself, listening to my own intuition, and allowing life to happen, and then seeing how it actually does work out, because it does. And that's the most important part, that if we can keep practicing that level of trust, life not just feels easier, but it feels better. And it becomes more exciting instead of dreadful.
Oh, yeah, indeed. Kind of goes back to the brain with the 8-pack ab thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are. We're strengthening, absolutely. We're strengthening our brain and our face and all of that.
That's right, indeed. Strengthen it all. Just strengthen all the goodies, all the goodies.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for those who want to keep in contact with you and all that you're doing and to pick up 50 copies of your books, how do we keep in touch with you?
My website is the easiest way to connect with me, and that is livingwithserendipity.com. And on there, you'll find my books. You'll also find my blog. You'll find my podcast and a way to connect with me. I'm also on social media and Facebook, Living with Serendipity, as well as Instagram. And I post there regularly with inspirations as they come.
Well, there you have it, folks. Go on ahead and head over to the wonderful Living with Serendipity goodness. Pick up that wonderful book, 30 Days to Me. And if you got a kid in your life, go ahead and get that book, Beating the Dragon. Heck, get the book for yourself. Funny enough, some kids' books are written for adults when you think about it, because it's like, if you got to read it to the kid, and the kid doesn't read, you're reading it too. So go on ahead and pick up that wonderful book and check out the wonderful podcast that Lynn is doing as well, because helping people help people is good stuff.
Yeah, and it just feels good. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Hey there, buddy. Looks like you made it to the end of this episode. Since you made it to the end of this episode, do both of us a favor and stop being greedy. Stop it right now and share this episode with your friends and your fellow podcast lovers.